The Kings lost a tough one in LA by 131, 127, and they are now off to an 0-2 start this season. But this 0-2 start is one of the most encouraging 0-2 starts the Kings have had. I feel like this is the most encouraging it could have looked for losing both of the first two games. I remember 2 seasons ago when the Kings started 0-4, but it was like you could tell like it's different this season. And it's the same thing here, where in the first game you have Julius Randle going 5 for 6 from three. It's just Julius Randle and magnet ball. And then this game, a similar thing with LeBron and his jump shot going crazy at the start of the fourth quarter. And I think in both cases, the Kings still had chances to win the game. And really, in both cases, I would say the reason they didn't win the game is because of their half court offense with Sabonis off of the court. Everything else, I thought they did really well. And sometimes you just have to tip your cap. I said that after the last game to Julius Randle, you just have to tip your cap. And it was the same thing here. There's just not much you could do. Even earlier in the game, you have Rui Hachimura hitting a couple of tough threes, and you have Dalton Connect hitting a couple of tough threes, and the Kings not shooting well, especially early on in this game. They were shooting really, really poorly from beyond the three-point arc, and that improved as the game went on. But before I really get into it, I do want to address a couple of things because I know that they're the big talking points. And it's obviously Kevin Huerter remaining the starter and Keon Ellis getting a DNP. And so first off, starting with the Keon Ellis DNP. It's not something I would have done as a coach, but I think when you look at this game, it worked. Like, I don't see how you could say that Keon Ellis would have been the difference in this game for the Kings and helped them win. Because the Kings' defense was good in this game. It was very good at times. There is nothing you can do about LeBron hitting those three-pointers, and there is nothing Keon Ellis would have done. And then when the Kings tried to take away the three, which I think was a mistake late in the fourth, like, again, there's nothing that Keon Ellis would have done to help that. And then you look at Kevin Huerter, and he's like a minus 29 on the night. Obviously, that doesn't look good, but he played really well in this game. 26 minutes, 4 for 7 from 3 at 14 points. But he also had 2 steals and a whole bunch of deflections. He was playing really, really good team defense. And there were only a few times where I feel like he really got caught out 1v1 defensively. Other than that, the Kings just had a tighter rotation. You saw 3 minutes from Jordan McLaughlin, but other than that, it was an 8-man rotation. And so while no, I wouldn't have DNP'd Keon Ellis, I think the Kings just wanted to stay big against a Lakers team that has LeBron James and Anthony Davis also playing Jackson Hayes, sometimes all three of them at the same time. So I am completely behind Mike Brown's decision because I think he got the team to play really, really well. And the Kings didn't have a great first half, but really it was the start of the fourth quarter that lost it for them. We can start from the beginning of the game. We didn't know who the Kings were going to put on LeBron James, and they ended up putting Keegan Murray. And I think one-on-one, Keegan did fairly well against LeBron for most of the game, as well as he could do, with the strength difference and obviously how explosive LeBron is, and LeBron just being LeBron. Like, I thought he did pretty well one-on-one. I would say where he didn't do well was fighting over screens or around screens, even going under. Like, he just conceded way too many switches. Even when the Lakers weren't even really trying to get the switches, he still gave it to them. And so there were a few moments where, like, LeBron, he's just like walking around a screen, like not even looking up, doing the LeBron thing where he's just like looking at the ground as he dribbles. And you concede the switch, and you have like Alex Len or Domantas Sabonis on LeBron. I don't think Sabonis is the worst when it comes to guarding LeBron, but you definitely don't want Alex Len on him. And so that's the main thing. And I think that's something we've seen with Keegan, even outside of this game, is he just needs to be better fighting through screens. But I was just really interested how they were going to work that matchup because you saw DeMar DeRozan taking Julius Randle, but in this game you have Keegan on LeBron. The Kings' offense early on was just super cold. And, like, they were getting pretty solid looks. And the one major thing that I noticed was the lack of mid-range shots early on. It was all at the basket or all from deep. And so it was a better shot diet in this game. In the first half alone, the Kings shot 25 threes after shooting only 29 threes against Minnesota last game. And so the Kings were just missing threes early on. They had good looks. Kevin Huerter missed a couple. Fox still hasn't really got his jumper going, although he kind of did later. Had an air ball. I don't know. Fox is just having a kind of a wild start to this season, but I'll talk about that in a bit. But so yeah, offensively, it was just a little cold. And then defensively, I thought, the initial defensive possessions were really good, and it was just that offensive rebounding that was really killing the Kings. I mean, there were so many deflections and steals that the Kings were coming up with. It was really good, forcing them into a lot of turnovers, 19 of them, but then allowing, this has 13 offensive rebounds. It felt like more. And that's exactly why the Kings were trying to stay bigger. There was too much standing around when it came to rebounding. They just had to be better. And it was pretty bad throughout the game. So if they just could have cleaned that up in a few instances, the defense was really good. AD got his at times, like barreling in, forced Sabonis into early foul trouble on some pretty soft calls, if we're being honest, especially with how the refs have been reffing early in this season and how they said they were going to. But, sometimes that's going to happen. Anthony Davis is Anthony Davis. He's going to get his sometimes. He's had a great start to the season. But they weren't allowing others to get going, and they weren't allowing the Lakers offense to get comfortable. And especially in the first quarter, it was all Anthony Davis. And then when he went out, the Lakers had a lot of trouble scoring. The Kings kind of got it going a bit more, and they were getting out in transition and getting dunks. And that's what was keeping them in the game. And that's what we saw from the Kings in the preseason, was getting lots of transition buckets right at the rim to keep themselves in games when they were shooting poorly. And so I think that's a good sign. And also Kevin Huerter was keeping us in the game with his three-point shooting, which was good. He just looked like revived after he hit one three-pointer, and then he hit another. And then, he obviously hit two more in this game, but also he was getting inside and forcing the defense to collapse, making good passes. His offensive game just looked like it was back. But we need to, of course, see that on a consistent basis for him. But it was very encouraging. In the second quarter, the Lakers offense really got going. They scored 36. And like I said, I thought they made tough shots. It wasn't all on the Kings defense. There were a few moments. Like there was a 5v2 where the Kings just didn't match up properly. And I think it was D'Angelo Russell just marched straight down the lane. And in the second half of that second quarter, the Kings defense just started swarming. And it was really fun to watch. Just tons of deflections. Malik Monk started to get it going. He was great in this game. And the Kings defense was just really good when it was constant motion, when everyone was active in the passing lanes. They weren't letting guys get isolated, because then later in the fourth quarter, when things do get more stagnant, that's where the Kings were struggling defensively. But when there was more motion, that's where the Kings were thriving defensively, especially a guy like Kevin Huerter with his length and being a good team defender. This is the game you can point to when you're talking about Kevin Huerter being a good team defender. And it was just super good fight to end that second quarter, and it continued into the third quarter, where they continued that swarming defense and they were getting right to the rim, started knocking down some more three-pointers, and the Kings got up to a little bit of a lead. And it was a very fun stretch at the start of that third quarter. And then the Kings got up about, to 6. And I think at one point it got to 7, maybe a little bit later, but it got to like 6. And that's where the Kings offense kind of stagnated a little bit. And we've seen it before where the Kings just can't quite get over that hump to push themselves to having a more comfortable lead. And we saw that against the Timberwolves, where it was like 10 points, where they couldn't quite get over that hump. And it was the same in this one at 6 points, where they just don't convert opportunities in transition. That was kind of when Fox couldn't hit a shot, and he was getting frustrated, and he missed a shot in transition, and then you could tell he got frustrated, so he just tried to like barge his way to the rim, turns it over, or it like turned into a jump ball, and then the Lakers go the other way on the jump ball. So it's those moments that the Kings need to improve on, I think, where they aren't able to extend the lead, and they need to be able to. Sometimes that's just going to happen. Obviously, you're not going to have your offense going full speed the entire time, but their defense was doing a good job of still keeping them in the lead. So you can't be too mad at that. They still scored 34 points in the third quarter to the Lakers 23. Like, it was a great quarter. And I think it's in those moments where the Kings offense kind of, goes a few possessions empty, and then there was a timeout. That's when I looked to Monk. Like, can Monk start to get going from there? And I do think that Monk's energy coming in those situations helps a lot. And getting in the bonus early in the third quarter was big, because then they were able to just get to the line through like an off-ball foul where Sabonis just gets fouled off the ball. He goes to the line. He's 8 for 9 from the free throw line in this one. Kings shot 22 for 25 from the free throw line in total. So very good signs there. Fox shot well from the free throw line, 7 for 8. And then Sabonis went out at the end of that third quarter. And it got scary because Fox airballed a three with like 12 seconds on the shot clock when he didn't need to take it. Then he had a super bad turnover. And it's those moments, again, where like you can't push the lead. But I don't necessarily expect them to push the lead out when Sabonis isn't on the floor, because the offense hasn't looked good without Sabonis. So it's just a matter of maintaining the lead. And so it's when Fox and DeMar need to step up. You're not going to have the greatest offense when Sabonis isn't on the floor, but you just need something. And Fox hit 2 really clutch threes, got a little lucky with some misses from the Lakers, but he hit 2 clutch threes to put us back up 7 when they got it down to 1. And so it's like, okay, finally somebody stepped up in the non-Sabonis minutes. And then just going into the fourth quarter, it made me feel a little better, even though I was still scared about those non-Sabonis minutes at the start of the fourth quarter. And I was right to be scared about that, because the offense was just awful. What was it, a 21-0 run or something to start the fourth quarter? Yes, LeBron was hitting all those shots, and that's why you have to tip the cap. But if the offense could have just gotten anything, then the comeback later in this game is so much easier. They still almost made it happen, but they just needed something. They needed DeMar to get something. They needed Fox to get something. And everything was just, they were taking turns, taking tough shots and just ISOing. And there's just a time and a place for that. And especially for Fox when he's not even shooting well. Like, at least DeRozan shot 9 for 12 in this game. But Fox wasn't shooting well, and the Kings just couldn't get to the rim. And there were a few times where like they had Alex Len inside, and I love Alex Len. The guy doesn't have good hands, and so you have to throw him. The team doesn't know how to throw Alex Len a pass. Yes, you can say it's on Alex Len, but this is a guy on a minimum, okay? You get what you get from Alex Len, and I love what he gives. Can someone just throw him a pass where he catches it above his head so he can just dunk the ball? Please. So the Kings just have to be able to figure out how they can get to the rim or get into the paint so they can get some threes on kickouts in those non-Sabonis minutes. Because right now, there's just no way. Sabonis did everything he could in this game. He was a plus 11. Now, plus minus ain't telling you everything, because Kevin Huerter was a minus 29, and I thought he played well. But still, like, the non-Sabonis minutes were just so bad. And yeah, they probably should have called a timeout earlier. That's definitely on Mike Brown. They absolutely should have called the timeout earlier. And then even after the timeout, not putting Keegan in there, having your answer for LeBron being Trey Lyles. When I saw Trey Lyles matched up on LeBron on one possession where it wasn't transition, I was like, that blew my mind. What are you doing? Trey Lyles is not the answer. I'd rather put Sabonis on him. Of course, then Lyles has to guard Anthony Davis. So that doesn't work either. And we saw that switch happen. You don't want Lyles on Anthony Davis either. Again, this is another situation where it's like, love Trey Lyles, love what he brings. You have to understand what he brings. What he brings is not guarding LeBron James. Don't try that. And so when he's knocking down all these threes, you got to get Keegan back in there. I know Keegan played 40 minutes, but like, that's where I feel like the rotations have to be different earlier in the game. Because there was a time early in the second half where Keegan's out there. He comes out as LeBron goes in. Why? Why is that the rotation? You need to be able to match those minutes. I would even rather have DeMar on LeBron than Trey Lyles. But then obviously the Kings started to make that comeback. LeBron went out. DeMar got it going. Fox got it going. Sabonis continued to do everything he could to pull this team to a win. He had a triple-double, 29 points, 10 assists, 12 rebounds, hit a clutch corner three. And you're seeing a lot more of the Kings using the center in the corner. We saw Alex Len also take a corner three, which was in and out. So guys started to hit clutch shots and bring it back. And it was just a little too late because of the way the Kings were then defending on the other end. The whole time I was saying you just have to live with LeBron shooting threes or jumpers. Like, I know what he was doing earlier, but like, he's LeBron James. You just have to let him shoot, because the Lakers got layup after layup because of the way the Kings started to deny LeBron from shooting threes. And in my opinion, you just have to let him shoot. You can't leave Keegan Murray alone in the post against Anthony Davis because LeBron's shooting well from three. You just can't do that. You can't get tied up on Bron. Just with the personnel the Kings have, you can't do that. I thought the only way the Kings were going to come back in this game was through LeBron starting to miss shots, which he didn't, because the Kings never gave him a chance because they were just getting layup after layup at the end of this game. I just think just because a guy is hitting from deep and can't miss doesn't mean that you should then just give him layups, because a layup is like 100% chance going in, and there's a lot better chance that he's going to start missing from three. But the Kings still had a chance. Like, somehow in this game they still had a chance. Monk got that steal and got us within two, and then we lived with the Anthony Davis three, which that's a good move. Like, what are you going to do if Anthony Davis hits the three, which he did? There's just nothing you can do about that. They had to live with that. The one thing that really pissed me off was the very last possession. Fox just needs to shoot that. And again, I'm going to talk more about Fox. He had just a weird game, and he's had a weird start to the season. But when there's 10 seconds left and you're down 4 and they're not doubling you out there, he had a clean look from three, as clean as you're going to get. Just shoot it. Didn't even give ourselves a chance when you're only down 4 with 10 seconds. So it's another tough loss, just like the Wolves one, but it's a super encouraging start to the season, and the Kings just need to keep it up because the wins will come if they keep playing like this. But the key is doing this against the bottom feeder teams, not playing down to your opposition. That's the problem the Kings have had in the past. They can't do that very much this season. Of course, you're going to have some games that you lose to the bottom teams in the NBA. It happens, but it has to be very minimal this season. And so just like we need to see consistency from Kevin Huerter, we also need to see this consistency from the whole team against bottom feeder teams. We can go through guys a little bit individually. Sabonis, just an incredible game. He loves playing against Anthony Davis. He did everything within his power to help this team to a win, and his team let him down. But Sabonis, he's not playing fair this season if this jumper is true. I mean, his free throw looked so good. He's shooting the 3-point with confidence. It's looking really good. He went 10 for 14 in this game, 8 for 9 from the free throw line. He hit a 3. Like, he's been so good to start this season. DeMar DeRozan, 9 for 12 from the field. Had a couple trips to the free throw line. Had one really important one where the Kings didn't have anything going. Drew a foul, calmed things down. That's exactly what we had from Harrison Barnes 2 seasons ago, and what we really lacked last season was a guy that calms things down, gets to the free throw line in those moments. And he was super efficient this game, almost led the comeback. He is absolutely an upgrade defensively over Harrison Barnes. No one can convince me otherwise. You're not going to, 3-and-D Harrison Barnes, elite defensive player Harrison Barnes. No. DeRozan's a better defender. I'm not saying he's elite or even average, which maybe he is average, I don't know. But he's better than what we were getting from Harrison Barnes because he's just able to jump passing lanes, get 3 steals. If you're going to let a guy score sometimes one-on-one, which I don't think he really did in this game, at least not on ball, then you can make up for it through getting those steals, and he did that. I think he did a good job of taking the ball when necessary, but not too much. I felt like he found a good balance. But of course, part of it is on him in those lineups at the end of the third and the start of the fourth. Without Sabonis, like he's a part of that and he needs to be a part of that solution. But that's very much a thing on DeMar, Fox, and the coaching staff. They all need to figure that out. And speaking of Fox, like the numbers aren't bad. And he definitely, like, it was just a really weird game. I thought he was super active defensively. Ended up with 26 points, 10 assists. The 6 turnovers, I mean, that's where you're kind of like scratching your head. There were some head scratchers. There were some really bad misses from the field. Where has his mid-ranger gone? There were some really bad misses from three, but then he goes and makes 2 threes in a row. And then he has that one really weird possession to end the game where he just doesn't get a shot up. I just think sometimes he tries to force things too much when sometimes he needs to just either back it out and reset the possession or defer to someone else. But he still did a lot of things well. His playmaking at the start of the season, I felt like he has been handling the ball more. And so he has been getting more assists and he's been creating more for his teammates than he did last season. And there were times where he, took over the offense for a few possessions and it was super successful. But I just feel like there were other times he got frustrated with his shot not falling, and that kind of spiraled. So he can't let that affect him. But if he can find that shot again, the mid-range shot again, then that's really going to solve all the problems, and it's really going to help solve the problem of the non-Sabonis minutes. Kevin Huerter, I've pretty much already said everything there is to say. Very confident, old school, red velvet game, very good team defense. This is why he's a starter, and it wasn't a guarantee that Keon Ellis was going to be the starter, and it was always going to be a battle. But I guess it's not a battle because Keon's not even playing. I don't understand not playing him any minutes. Like, yeah, I would understand not playing him a lot of minutes, but like, why is McLaughlin getting 3 minutes and not Keon? We'll see as this season progresses. But like I said, I think it worked. Like, the Kings didn't lose because they didn't play Keon Ellis, right? So the lineups for what Keon Ellis could have provided to them were working well, like defensively. Keon is not going to fix the non-Sabonis minutes. That's not one of the solutions. Trey Lyles, 1 for 6 from 3, put in some tough spots defensively. He had some good defensive moments off ball when he's coming to help, but on the ball was really bad, and that's not really on him. Like, he has his limitations. We know that. He also forced some threes, I think. The Kings shot 44 threes. I just think it was part of, the coaching staff wanting to take more threes, and so he's going to get him up. Can't be too mad. There was like one attempt where I'm like, okay, calm down. Can't be too mad at that. He just didn't really knock him down this game. Alex Len played 9 minutes, 2 turnovers, no points, had a block. Not a good Alex Len game. Like I said, stone hands inside, partly on him, partly on others. Another moment where I forget who it was. Someone tried to give him a post-entry pass. Why? Don't do that. Struggled when he got switched onto Braun. That just really shouldn't happen. But also not at all the reason we lost, because it was only 9 minutes. And obviously he's the one playing the non-Sabonis minutes, and I'm saying the non-Sabonis minutes are the problem, but that's not on him to solve that. McLaughlin, 3 minutes, got some cardio in. Cool. And then Monk was really good, hit some big threes to get us back in the game. Was just super clean with the ball, did what the team needed him to do, was getting downhill, getting into the paint, getting others open. Just a classic Malik Monk game, except maybe even better than a classic Malik Monk game because there were no really bad moments, I don't think. And I thought he had a good defensive game. Like, no turnovers, no kind of head scratching plays. Usually there's like 1 or 2, but he gets away with it because he does so much good. I don't even think he had those head scratching plays. And then the last thing I want to talk about is, like, when we're talking about Keon Ellis getting a DNP, it's like, okay, where did those minutes go? They didn't go to the starters. Kevin Huerter played a little bit more because he was just playing better. He played 6 more minutes. Like, that's part of it. I think Trey Lyles played about 8 more minutes. So staying big. Alex Len played 3 more minutes. Again, staying big. And so I do think like Keon Ellis, those minutes, they went to just the bigger guys because the Lakers were killing us on the glass and they were playing some big lineups. That's pretty much it for this game. Like I said, 0-2 start, but encouraging. But now is the time where the Kings need to win games. It's Portland at home. Then you go on a 4-game road trip. Utah, Atlanta, Toronto, Miami. Come back against Toronto. These are not good teams. Miami, the best of them here. This could be a 5-1 stretch. Like, that's how good it definitely could be if the Kings play like they did in these first 2 games against these teams. They will beat them. This next game against Portland, we saw Portland get absolutely blown out by the Warriors, and then they got beat by a Brandon Ingram game winner. Portland is one of those teams where it could go either way. They could definitely be competitive with some of the guys they have. You know, if you let Scoot Henderson get going, that could be tricky to deal with him getting into the lane and the lack of rim protection that we really have. You know, obviously Anthony Simons and Jeremy Grant have killed us in the past. It's going to be weird if we don't see Keon Ellis in this game because this is more of a game where I feel like you're going to see the guard defenders where you need to defend Anthony Simons. Like, sure, Fox can take that, but I would love Keon on him or on Scoot Henderson to prevent him from getting going. Those first 2 games, you just tip your cap, like I said. Now you have to win. Like, this stretch of 6 games, you gotta win now because the Kings have an easier schedule early on, so you don't want to be playing from behind early in this season. I'm very encouraged by what we've seen from the Kings so far, but my tune will absolutely change if this game goes poorly. If you've come this far, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, leave a comment. As always, thank you to the members of this channel, No Rain and Joe Mama, for supporting the channel. And I will see you guys after the Blazers game. Peace.